And welcome back to yet another exciting week of the Lazy Money Game. In this week's episode, I'm going to cover the annual shareholder meeting at Berkshire Hathaway, or rather, I'm going to cover some interesting points which Warren Buffett made. And afterwards, I will take a closer look at my portfolio as well. So let's get straight to the point and take a closer look at the first example. Well, this is the 20 largest corporations in the world measured by market cap as end of March this year. And as you can see here, you have Apple with a market cap of more than $2 trillion. Then you have Saudi Aramco, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Facebook. I mean, all of these are most likely familiar names to you. But if you then should have a guess on how many of these 20 companies were on this list 30 years ago, and think about that for a second. Well, if your guess was 0, then you were correct, because what Warren Buffett shows was this very interesting list from 1989, saying these were the 20 largest corporations. I mean, even though a lot of these names are familiar company names, none of them are actually at the top 20 today. And what is even more remarkable is, look at the market cap, 104 billion 30 years ago. So the largest corporation was not even on the list 30 years ago, and today is worth more than 20 times more than the most valuable company back in those days. So this small example shows what perspective you can look at the stock market with. If your time horizon is 30 years, I mean, look how much wealth can actually be created. But what Warren Buffett does with the next example is showing, even though you know that an industry will change the world, then it is extremely hard to pick the winners in those industries, which I will show you with the next example. So the next example that Buffett shows is really about how you need to stay humble, because despite the fact that you have the perfect idea for something that will change the world as we know it, how do you know what company that you need to invest in to be a successful investor? So Buffett sets the scene with this list of automobile manufacturers. If you go back to the beginning of the 1900s, then he tried to look up all the different car manufacturers at that time, and there were simply too many, so he narrowed down his list to companies which just started with MA, and even here you can see it's a pretty long list. So even though you know that this invention will change the world as we know it, then it is extremely hard to figure out what company you need to invest in order to gain from that success. And that is assuming that you were correct in your thesis that this product will change the world as we know it. I'm absolutely baffled about Buffett's ability to time and time again come up with excellent and very easy to understand examples. And also, when you look to him, I mean, the guy has been the richest person on the earth, and he is still extremely humble because he looked to his investment with this mindset. Just because he has been right from in a lot of times and over a period of more than 50 years, how many people do you know who would stay this humble with that amount of success? That is truly inspiring for me. So as always, I highly recommend that you go and take a closer look at that shareholder meeting. I will of course include a link in the description below, because I truly believe that there is so much we can learn here from someone with this immense experience. If you are at all interested in knowing more about investing, and especially if you want to be a value investor, this is a gold mine There is so much you can learn there. Well, how about the financial results from Berkshire Hathaway? Well, I'm not going to show anything in that sense. I simply just wanted to highlight these two examples, since it for me really is the essence of what I want to see from Berkshire Hathaway, where Warren Buffett really shows his passion. I mean, how many people do you know who would be willing to sit down and spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out what car manufacturers there were 100 years ago? So now that we have been served with this piece of humble pie from Berkshire Hathaway's annual shareholder meeting, let's take a closer look at my portfolio and see what has happened within this week. So the first thing we notice is that there's a red circle for this week's episode, meaning that the portfolio is down in value compared to last week. So if we go to the portfolio values tab, then we can see even though the value of the portfolio has increased with more than $8,000, then it is actually a less increase than the increase in the cost, since I have added for a little more than $8,600 of value into the portfolio. That is why that there's a red circle for this week's episode. And if we go back to the overview arc, then we actually don't even have to scroll up. If we start by looking at the portfolio pie chart here, then you can see that it is within the financial services that I have done an investment. And we don't even have to scroll up. But if I zoom in a bit here, just to make it even more clear, then you can see that my invested capital in Unum Group has increased quite significantly since I have bought 300 new shares. So Unum Group is an insurance company, and if you want to know more about them, I highly suggest that you go and check out my old video called What is Unum? If we then scroll to the side here, then obviously we can see that the dividends that I'm going to receive from Unum has significantly increased since I have added these 300 shares. And this actually leads me to my favorite tab, namely the dividends tab. So if we go and take a closer look at that, since April has now finished, we can see that the total dividend that I have received was $231, and that is actually up quite significantly since January. That is an increase of more than 65%, since I keep on adding capital into this portfolio. And what is even more remarkable for me is my estimated yearly income has now surpassed $4,000, which I am truly happy to see. And this is obviously due to the fact that I am investing a lot currently. And just to make it clear, the last dividend that I received within this week in April was from Simon Property. They paid me very close to $35. If we then go back to the overview arc and I scroll to the top just to show you all the companies in the portfolio so you have the complete overview here, then you can see that quite a lot of the healthcare companies has actually taken a hit within this week, since Bristol Myers is only in a small plus here, and you can see that my initial purchase in Merck is actually down close to 4%, even though that I have been up on that already since my purchase. So this is just normal market fluctuations, which you will see from time to time. So after that we have been served this piece of humble pie from Berkshire Hathaway, that actually sums it up for yet another exciting week of the Lazy Money Game. So if you like content like this, then please consider leaving a comment, liking the video, or subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out. And until I see you next Sunday, bye!